you're gonna have to ask Aaliyah that question. I honestly, you just do your work. You gotta do your work early, and make it different. But Aaliyah did say I have a special whistle. She shot 13 today. Yeah. Yeah, she said the last game I had a special whistle, which is cool.
Oh man, the excuses from the Aces came flying faster than a missed free throw. A'ja Wilson and Becky Hammon just couldn't handle losing to the Indiana Fever. So what did they do? They blamed the refs big time. They're out here saying the whistles were rigged, that the refs straight up cheated. Forget all of Aaliyah Boston's amazing play. Forget Kelsey Mitchell scoring bucket after bucket. Nope. According to them, it was all on the officials. But come on, everyone who watched that game saw what really happened. The Indiana Fever went head to head with the reigning champs, the Las Vegas Aces, and totally dominated them. They didn't just barely win or get some fluke shot. They beat them with sheer size, aggression, hustle, and pure heart. But if you listen to A'ja and Becky, none of that mattered. They think the only reason the Aces lost is because the referees were secretly working for Indiana. That's the story they're trying to put.
Look on your face while you're looking at that box score. I'm wondering what's really standing out to you there.
I was just looking at the fouls. Like Liz had 5, Jackie had 5, Chelsea had 5. And that's very interesting to me because I'm not saying we don't foul. Yeah, we foul here and there, but that's very interesting.
And honestly, the irony here is just too much. This is A'ja Wilson complaining? A player who practically lives at the free throw line herself? I mean, A'ja gets special whistles all season long. She just breathes near the paint and boom, she's shooting free throws. But suddenly, when the calls aren't going her way, she's crying foul? You really can't make this stuff up. Look, Becky Hammon brought up the stat. Indiana shot 34 free throws. The Aces only 11. See, threw that out like it was the smoking gun, like the refs stole the game. But here's the reality check. Indiana churned those free throws. Aaliyah Boston just bulldozed her way inside every single possession. She went straight at A'ja's chest, drew contact, and made the refs blow that whistle. That's just aggressive basketball, right? That's how you earn your calls. And seriously, if you don't want to foul someone, then don't swipe down and hack them in the post. Simple as that.
A'ja, it looks like they really were intentional about going to Aaliyah in the second half. What was, I guess, difficult about containing her? I know you guys kind of touched on a few things, maybe with the foul calls, but what made it successful for them to keep running her tonight?
I don't know, you're gonna have to ask Aaliyah that question. I honestly, you just do your work. You gotta do your work early, and make it different. But Aaliyah did say I have a special whistle. She shot 13 today.
She said that to you?
Yeah. Yeah, she said the last game I had a special whistle, which is cool. So we just gotta play their better defense, make her look a little difficult, and kind of go from there.
But get this. A'ja Wilson apparently thinks Aaliyah Boston didn't just play hard. She thinks Boston has some kind of magical special whistle. A'ja even claimed Boston admitted it. Look, let's just stop right there. That's not a real thing. Nobody gets a special golden whistle that follows them around the league. Boston got calls because she attacked the basket. Period. Meanwhile, A'ja spent half her time taking fadeaway jumpers and mid-range shots. Newsflash for A'ja, referees don't give you free throws for jump shot. And let's not forget, this is the same A'ja Wilson who has been getting more free throws than almost anyone else in the league for years. Fever fans complain about it constantly because she gets bailed out anytime someone even looks at her jersey. But now, suddenly, she's the victim? Come on. That's like the teacher's pet who's been getting free candy all year, suddenly crying because the teacher forgot Skittles one day. Give me a break.
Megan had 4.
What? Oh my God, that's interesting. That's what I was looking at. We'll do better. We gotta play better defense.
I'm interested. You mean that shit?
Yeah, I can't say that because I got a brain to protect. But
I'm saying I have no brain.
yeah, it's interesting. But we'll be better.
Now Becky Hammon? She wasn't any better, trust me. She walked into that press conference with her smugness turned all the way up, ready for her big mic drop moment. And what did she say? They shot 34, we shot 11. Next question. That was it. That was her entire analysis of the game. Forget strategy. Forget making adjustments. Forget that Boston and Mitchell completely outplayed her star players. Nope, it was all the refs' fault. Honestly, if that's the coaching philosophy for the Aces, maybe they need a whole new game plan. Because last time I checked, blaming the referees doesn't actually win you championships.
Coach, how much Liz foul trouble impacted you on the rotation and her impact on the defensive end?
Yeah, I mean, it hurts us. We need to be able to play Liz heavy minutes. She's been an impactful player in this series. I gotta go back and look at the tape, but it seemed like there was a lot of grabbing and holding down there. That got called one way.
Anything else?
I did appreciate it was a little tighter called, but tighter on both ends would have been nice.
What's crazy is Becky actually tried to spin this like the game was called totally differently than the rest of the series. Seriously, maybe it's because Indiana finally started pounding the paint instead of settling for jumpers. Maybe Aaliyah Boston finally looked like the #1 pick she was always meant to be. Just a thought, and let's not pretend Las Vegas was playing clean basketball either. Jackie Young had 5 fouls, Chelsea Gray had 5 fouls. I mean, Vegas was hacking left and right and the refs called it. They didn't swallow the whistle, they just did their job. Meanwhile, Fever fans are absolutely cracking up. For months, they've heard this narrative that Caitlin Clark is the only reason Indiana wins games. Well, guess what? Caitlin's been sidelined, and Aaliyah Boston has stepped right into that superstar role. She went toe-to-toe with Aja Wilson and completely outplayed her. That's not the refs, that's just reality. Boston bullied her way to 24 points and 14 rebounds. That's pure dominance, not favoritism. Kelsey Mitchell dropped 25, hit clutch shots, and outshined Jackie Young. Again, not the refs, just straight buckets. And Odyssey Sims, she absolutely cooked off the bench, crossing people out of their sneakers. Still not the refs, just fantastic basketball. The Fever had a better game plan. They executed better and they clearly wanted it more. But no, according to Aja and Becky, the whole thing was scripted by corrupt officials. It's almost comical, isn't it? The Aces lose and suddenly the referees are but when the Aces win off questionable calls in other series, not a peep. That's the hypocrisy here. Vegas has been benefiting from friendly whistles for years. Becky Hammond herself has praised officials when calls win her, but the minute the scales tip in Indiana's favor, suddenly it's a conspiracy. Let's just call it what it is, deflection. The Aces don't want to admit they got outworked. They don't want to admit Aaliyah Boston punked their front court. They don't want to admit Kelsey Mitchell cooked their guard. They don't want to admit their bench gave them almost nothing. So instead of accountability, they point at the Zebras and scream cheating. It's lazy, it's weak, and honestly, it's embarrassing for a franchise that loves to brag about being the standard. But hey, this isn't new. Coaches blaming refs is older than basketball itself. It's the easy escape route, because if you say, we lost because they played better, that means you actually have to change something. If you say, we lost because the refs were crooked, then boom, no adjustments needed. Just run it back and hope the whistle flips next game. It's excuse making 101. Now here's where it gets even funnier. Aces fans are actually buying into it. Twitter has been full of posts whining about how the league wants Caitlin Clark in the finals for ratings, as if referees are secretly on Adam Silver's payroll, taking orders to rig games for Indiana. Give me a break. If the WNBA was actually rigging games, don't you think they'd prefer Vegas, the two-time champs with Aja Wilson, Chelsea Gray, and Jackie Young back in the finals? That's a much safer bet for ratings than Indiana, who just climbed out of the basement last season. The whole conspiracy theory just makes no sense. And don't forget, this is Caitlin Clark's second year. She's not a rookie anymore. This narrative that the league is forcing her success is just tired. She's proven herself, the Fever have proven themselves, and Aaliyah Boston just proved she's every bit the star Indiana drafted her to be. If the Aces can't handle that, well, that's their problem. Let's zoom in on that free throw stat one more time, because this is the hill Becky and Aja want to die on. Indiana 34, Vegas 11. Looks bad on paper, right? But dig deeper. Indiana attacked the rim relentlessly. Vegas settled for jumpers. That's the real difference. That's not corruption, it's basketball 101. aggression gets rewarded, passive play doesn't. It really is that simple. And the funniest part, the Aces still had chances to win. Even with that free throw disparity, they were in striking distance late in the game, but they missed shots, turned the ball over, and folded down the stretch. That's on them, not the refs, not the league. It's on them. So yeah, Aja Wilson and Becky Hammon went off on the refs in their post-game rants. But the truth is, the only people they exposed were themselves. They exposed their own insecurity, they exposed their own lack of accountability, and they exposed how scared they are of the Indiana Fever. Because deep down, they know this isn't the same old Fever anymore. This team isn't backing down. Here's what else. The meltdown from Vegas wasn't just a couple of salty quotes. It was a full-on attempt to rewrite what everyone actually saw. The box score doesn't lie. Aaliyah Boston owned the paint. Kelsey Mitchell owned the perimeter. Odyssey Sims torched their bench. And the Fever, a team that was supposed to be rebuilding, suddenly looks one win away from the finals. But Vegas, they just want you to believe the refs cheat. Let's revisit Aja Wilson's comments, because they're almost like a comedy skit at this point. She said something like, "We foul sometimes, sure, but the number of fouls called was interesting. Interesting. That's her word." Translation: we fouled a ton, but I don't like how obvious the refs made it look. Imagine being a superstar who gets bailed out by refs year after year, only to act shocked when the whistle isn't gift wrapped for you. It's like a celebrity complaining their free VIP pass didn't work at the club one night. Sorry, Aja, but regular rules apply sometimes. And let's really break down what happened defensively. Aja had no answer for Aaliyah Boston. None. Boston went right at her, right through her, and right over her. That's why she got fouled so much. Not because of favoritism, but because Aja couldn't keep her in front without slapping her arm or hip checking her in the lane. That's not cheating refs. That's called getting absolutely cooked. Then we've got Becky Hammon's press conference. A masterclass in deflection. She literally stared at reporters and said, "They shot 34 free throws. We shot 11. Next question." No mention of defensive adjustments. No mention of Boston's incredible footwork. No mention of Kelsey Mitchell's shot making. Nope, just the refs. It's the easiest narrative in sports. When you lose, blame the people in stripes. But here's the problem. Everybody with eyes saw Vegas hacking away like they were chopping wood. The Aces weren't disciplined. They grabbed. They swiped it down. Of course the whistle blew. It's not rocket science. You foul, you get called. That's basketball. And the fact that Becky is so determined to pretend otherwise makes her look less like a Hall of Fame level coach and more like a PR manager for the Las Vegas excuse machine. And let's not pretend Vegas hasn't been favored in the past. Fever fans haven't forgotten the whistle in Game 3 when Caitlin Clark started 1 for 11 and still couldn't get a single call despite being hacked on drives. That game really should have gone Indiana's way, but the refs swallowed their whistles and Vegas stole one. Funny how Becky and Aja had nothing to say about interesting officiating back then. It's only when the shoe's on the other foot that they suddenly find their voices. This is exactly what makes the "they cheated" narrative so laughable, because if the league really wanted to rig things, they wouldn't pick Indiana. They'd stick with the proven ratings monster, the Aces. Aja is a two-time MVP, Becky is one of the faces of coaching, and Vegas has already built itself up as the WNBA's glamour franchise. If you were going to fix a game for ratings, wouldn't you make sure Aja and her crew advanced? The logic just completely collapses on itself. Meanwhile, Indiana doesn't care about the whining. They're too busy celebrating. Aaliyah Boston's stat line of 24 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks, and 2 steals wasn't handed to her by refs. That was pure sweat and muscle. Kelsey Mitchell dropping 25 wasn't a gift from a whistle. That was pure skill. Odyssey Sims cooking defenders one-on-one wasn't some referee conspiracy. That was just basketball. Here's the truth Vegas doesn't want to admit. Indiana beat them at their own game. The Fever were tougher. The Fever were hungrier. The Fever played like the team that wanted the finals more. And instead of tipping their hats, Vegas chose to cry foul. Literally. Now, let's zoom out and talk big picture. This isn't just about one game, this is about a real shift in power. For years, the WNBA has been dominated by the Aces, the Liberty, the Mercury, all the usual suspects. Indiana was supposed to be rebuilding, a young team with promise, but no chance of knocking off the Giants. But Caitlin Clark's arrival paired with Aaliyah Boston's incredible growth, changed everything, and now in just year 2 of Clark's career, Indiana is suddenly on the brink of the final. That's what really scares Vegas, because let's be real, this isn't about refs, this is about ego. The Aces are used to being the bully, they're used to walking into gyms and owning the spotlight, but now they're watching the Fever steal all the headlines. Clark, even from the sidelines, is still the biggest name in the league. Boston is outshining A'ja Wilson. Kelsey Mitchell is out-dueling Jackie Young. The Fever are completely flipping the script, and the Aces do not like it one bit. And what happens when egos get bruised? Excuses, whining, and crazy conspiracies about corrupt officials? It's just easier than admitting you got outplayed. The fans aren't buying it though. Social media absolutely blew up after the game. Fever fans clowned A'ja for complaining about free throws when she's been gifted more whistles than anyone in the league. Neutral fans pointed out that Boston actually earned her calls by being aggressive, while A'ja settled for jumpers, and even some Vegas fans admitted their team looked flat and deserved to lose. That's the thing about excuses. They might sound good in the locker room, but they don't hold up under the bright lights of public opinion. Now let's not let the referees completely off the hook. The WNBA's officiating has been pretty trash all season long. Missed calls, inconsistent whistles, technicals for nothing, you name it, we've seen it. But in this case, the refs weren't the reason Vegas lost. They were bad both ways as usual. The difference is Indiana didn't let it rattle them. They adjusted, stayed aggressive, and forced the issue. Vegas, on the other hand, just folded and then cried foul. And here's a point nobody in Vegas wants to admit. Becky Hammond got out-coached. Stephanie White finally unleashed Boston in the post, told her to stop floating around the perimeter, and the results were absolutely devastating. Vegas had no counter. Becky didn't adjust. She didn't double Boston effectively, didn't rotate fast enough, and just let her dominate one-on-one. That's not the refs, that's coaching. But are we hearing Becky admit she got out-coached? Nope, just excuses. So let's recap. A'ja Wilson blames a special whistle. Becky Hammond points at free throw numbers like they're some conspiracy chart. Aces fans scream about corruption. And meanwhile, the scoreboard says Indiana Fever 1, Las Vegas Aces 0 in the excuse wars. The Fever earned their win. Vegas lost because they got outplayed. Simple as that. And here's the kicker. All this whining actually sets up Game 5 perfectly, because now the pressure is really on Vegas. If they lose again, the narrative isn't just the refs cheated us. The narrative becomes A'ja Wilson and Becky Hammond got outplayed and outcoached by a young Indiana team. That's a huge legacy risk here, and deep down, they totally know it. That's why the excuses are flowing like water. At the end of the day, fans don't care about referee conspiracies. They care about results, and the result right now is clear. The Fever are one win away from the finals, while the Aces are stuck pointing finger. So here we are, Vegas crying about refs, Indiana celebrating, and the WNBA caught right in the middle. The Fever didn't need special whistles. They needed Boston, Mitchell, and Sims, and they absolutely showed up. If the Aces want to survive, they better stop blaming refs and start playing basketball.